Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Taylor and this is my husband Drew. And on this channel we talk about life and relationships after leaving the church and do some commentary on the goings on in evangelical Christianity. So I'm really excited to share with you guys something that I've been helping out with behind the scenes. Well, I'm excited but also not excited.
The information is not all good
it's not all good, but it's cool that I was able to help out with it. So back when I did my recent Girls Gone Bible videos, I actually had a journalist from Salon magazine reach out to me because she wanted to write an article about Girls Gone Bible. Her name's Amanda Marcotte or Marcotte. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce her last name. But she wrote a piece on Girls Gone Bible, and she dug into the story even more than I did and kind of pulled up some new things about Girls Gone Bible that I'm excited to excited and not excited to talk about today. So I thought today we'd read through the article and react to it and give a little bit of our commentary here and there. So I think we should just jump into it. What do you think?
Let's do it.
All right, so the title is Girls Gone Bible, Spicy Christian Podcast Sells Young Women on MAGA. Will Scandal Hurt or Help? We look for confidence in our achievements, our appearance, our accomplishments, intoned the perfectly coiffed and made-up Angela Halili on a recent episode of the Girls Gone Bible podcast. But godly confidence, she continued, has nothing to do with your external circumstance. Her co-host, Ariel Reitzma, also in heavy makeup and with equally perfect hair, chimed in with an occasional yeah as Halili continued. It's about finding confidence that's rooted in your identity in Jesus and trusting God that he has a purpose and plan for your life. I feel like I didn't read that yeah well enough.
I'll try.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
or
Oh god, I hate when they do that. I'm like, why are you moaning?
I'm sorry. I had to do it.
Fans of Girls Gone Bible swooned in the comments on YouTube over Halili and Reitzma's professions of Christian humility. But there's no denying that this explosively popular podcast has also produced worldly accomplishments for its hosts. Girls Gone Bible has only existed for 2 years, but it's been a huge success. Their YouTube channel has more than 730,000 subscribers and nearly 1 million Instagram followers. Oh, wow. I didn't realize there were almost at 1 million on Instagram. Dang. Their show sits at the top of Spotify's podcast charts in the religion and spirituality category.
Yeah, this is why it's strange to me why you are one of the few people who are talking about this.
I know.
There are still, I would say, there are probably more videos made per week, per month, per day on like Girl Defined than
still,
on
Paul Morgan still.
Yeah, than Girls Gone Bible. Which, if you just want to look at the numbers, I mean, I think Girls Gone Bible has probably done bigger numbers than the entire career of Paul and Morgan and Girl Defined, and I don't add in a few others, like all combined.
Yeah, I mean, because Girl Defined has existed for so long, and back in the day, they used to do pretty well. So they may be, like, total views-wise on their channel, they might be more than Girls Gone Bible, but in terms of, like, what's popular right now in the Christian sphere, it's definitely Girls Gone Bible. I also really like how she starts out this article by juxtaposing how Girls Gone Bible appear, like how Ariel and Angela appear versus like the words that are coming out of their mouth, because they're constantly talking about like Christian humility and about how you need to only find your confidence in God. But then just like by looking at them, they obviously have like a deep interest in external circumstances.
Yeah.
I mean, something that somebody pointed out to me recently is that after every single one of their live shows, Ariel will post on Instagram links to the outfits that she wore to the live show. And like sometimes like what she's wearing is like hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, it's so easy just to be like, oh yeah, I'm humble and all I care about is God and I don't find my identity in other things. But like, it's so easy to just say that without...
Piggy agrees.
Reitzma and Halili, both professed Jesus freaks, have packed venues with thousands of fans on their national tours, delivering what the hosts call a ministry at ticket prices that start around $40 but can be more than $100 or more. They market GGB Plus subscriptions to their young female fan base for $7 a month. The two women frequently appear on Fox News. I've only seen them on Fox News twice. I wouldn't necessarily say frequently, but I mean, they have gone on Fox News more than once. They gave the invocation at a Donald Trump victory rally in January, making news by conflating Trump with God himself and using ominous language. I pray that a holy fire will rain down on Trump's opponents, they said, and that no weapon formed against him will prosper.
I remember you had an interesting insight into that because we both thought that's not how they usually sound. They don't usually say like rain, holy fire. I mean, that sounds like you maybe read a charismatic Christian book, and they don't usually sound like that. But I think that you had a good insight into where they might have lifted that from.
Actually, that was Jenny.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, she said that like it sounds a lot like Paula White, who is Trump's spiritual advisor.
Oh, well, very good observation there, Jenny.
Yeah, which I thought was like a really good observation, and I think I repeated it in my video. She wrote, they market GGB Plus subscriptions to their young female fan base for $7 a month, and also they apparently put ads, like sponsorship ads, on their videos that are part of the GGB Plus, which like, to me, I'm like, that's like really not the standard for creators.
Yeah.
Like usually if you have videos that are behind a paywall, people are paying that $7 a month for this extra like bonus videos that aren't going to have like YouTube ads or sponsors on them. So the fact that their GGB Plus videos have ads apparently is like, come on, guys. Like, come on.
No, they're not, I know they're not perfect. Like, can you stop criticizing them for being so money grubby?
Well, and like anytime I make that point, their fans are like, well, what's wrong with them being Christians and like making money from, you know, while also spreading the gospel? And it's like, yeah, I mean, there isn't a problem with that. There are a lot of Christian creators that we do think do good work, but also make money from their channel. But it's just like in every single aspect, they're like monetizing it to the max.
Yeah.
Where it's like, it's almost like they do certain things because they can monetize it versus like doing things because they like genuinely want to.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like that's something that you can just pick up. But I think, you know, I'm 31 and most of Girls Gone Bible's fans, I'm guessing, are around 18. So I don't think that they necessarily are picking up on what I'm picking up because they don't have as much like real world experience.
And they also haven't been content creators for like several years.
Yeah. Halili and Reitzma look nothing like stereotypical church ladies, to put it mildly. They look like sexy young actresses on the outer fringes of Hollywood, which is what they are. According to IMDb, their movie roles include the horror movie victim in Spin the Bottle and the slutty girl in Rock of Ages. This incongruity between cosmopolitan appearance and fundamentalist message is central to their popularity. This I actually found really interesting because it reminded me a lot of that Matt Bernstein video that we were watching about like the gender politics of the right, where it's like right-wing women are expected to be modest and like almost trad wife-esque, but at the same time there's this expectation for them to be like sexy too. And I think that really is like the Girls Gone Bible brand. Yeah. I mean, they even named Girls Gone Bible after Girls Gone Wild. Yeah. Like the whole thing is like packaging this fundamentalist messaging in this like sexy wrapping paper. Like that really is what it is.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it makes sense why people might feel like that totally contradicts, but I think the through line there is that, I mean, they are either a household appliance or an object for men to look at and get sexual gratification from. So in both instances, when they're embodying these roles, they're just a tool, they're a commodity or object for men to use. Yeah. You know, that's what the through line is here.
Yeah. Whether or not this is entirely strategic, I do think it's strategic.
Yeah.
Girls Gone Bible and other female-centric Christian-themed podcasts can be understood as parallel to the better-known manfluencer content of Andrew Tate, Jordan Peterson, and others. Although their content manifests first and foremost as lifestyle advice on dating, working out, and fashion, for example, those influencers are perceived as driving younger men into the misogynistic far right and the MAGA movement, and may have been a decisive factor in the 2024 presidential election. Halili and Reitzma are offering a sense of community and religious fellowship to younger women who want to be seen as feminine, fashionable, and sexually attractive. But the political and cultural ramifications of their messaging, which includes urging young women to accept a submissive role in marriage and overt support for the Trump agenda, are impossible to miss.
I like that she said that because some fans kind of insist that they're not really that political, because Girls Gone Bible says, oh, we're not particularly political.
Yeah.
When it's like,
or
obvious they
their
are.
video, I think they only have one video that's explicitly about politics.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, they like don't talk about it. But the only times that they've ever been present, well, not even been present, have had a major role in a political campaign was for Donald Trump. And they were like praising him as if he was a god the entire time. So it's like clearly they're motivating their fans probably to vote in that direction.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a good point that like even though their content is not necessarily marketed as political, it's still in that pipeline.
Absolutely.
And obviously driving people towards MAGA. Lifestyle and entertainment online shows that are nominally non-political often bring right-leaning politics to their trusted audiences, said Kayla Goggerty, research director for Media Matters. She authored a recent report that suggests that this strategy has helped the far right capture larger audiences than progressive online creators, seeping into non-political spaces and exploiting algorithms that could bring users from lifestyle content to pro-MAGA, manosphere, and other right-wing content. The religious right has reached young men through The religious right has reached young men through new media with incredible success, but has largely struggled to reach young women, added Taylor Lee, a former evangelical who hosts the Anti-Bot YouTube channel, which analyzes and criticizes evangelical culture. It's clear that Girls Gone Bible is an attempt to change that. And I thought something that I've been, ever since I saw that they spoke at a Trump rally, that's kind of like what I've been saying, is that I think that this is some sort of alignment between Girls Gone Bible and Trump. I think that there is some sort of connection there. Yeah. I mean, obviously they know each other, but I think it's a strategy. It's purposeful because Trump, but prior to his election, he was constantly going on like podcasts,
like the Nelk Boys and stuff. Yeah,
like he was constantly going on those kind of podcasts, even onto like Theo Von, which is not as like right wing as a lot of these are. Although I think arguably you could say that Theo Von is a pipeline to the right too.
Yeah, he's more of a pipeline type guy rather than being far right.
But he didn't really have much of a connection with social media when it came to like younger women, and I think that this is like a purposeful move to connect with a young female audience that would lean more right wing. What Halili and Reitzma are selling is a mix between the Haktua girl and the prosperity gospel, according to religion professor Bradley Onishi.
That's awesome.
Host of the Spirit and Power podcast. As counterintuitive as this may seem to outsiders, Onishi said, it's a huge deal in evangelical culture when young people perceived as fashionable or cool, who could be hanging out at cool clubs or parties, are seen as giving that up and committing themselves to God. That identity can also make them accessible to more secular users. One former GGB fan, Jennifer Neiman, who I interviewed on the channel, told Salon that the host didn't initially strike her as political at all. They were offering fun, girly time wrapped in with faith, and they're also beautiful women. And that's something that Jenny and I discussed a lot, is that I think Angela and Ari are very, like, aspirational for a lot of people because they are, like, stereotypically, like, very, I don't mean that, like, meanly, but, like, they are very gorgeous. And I think that a lot of young women look to them and want to be like them.
Yeah.
And seeing that, like, beautiful women who are also strong in their faith, I think is, like, very attractive to a lot of younger women.
Yeah, in the same way that, you know, you probably noticed that a lot of Christian apologists, Cliff Knechtle is actually a strange exception to this, they're pretty much all jacked. Like, Sean McDowell and Frank Turek are crazy jacked most of the time.
Yeah.
And it's because they're trying to be aspirational for young men. They're trying to, like, embody this gender ideal and archetype so that people will aspire to be like them. Also, though, I think with men, it is a little bit of a listen to me because I'm big and strong.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a mild intimidation thing. With women, it's just, I think, embodying that archetype.
Yeah. Tia Levings, author of A Well-Trained Wife, My Escape from Christian Patriarchy, said she sees GGB and similar content as definitely a pipeline to MAGA, a funnel to Christian nationalism. While the online far right targets married women with content about health, nutrition, and parenting, she said, GGB appeals to a bevy of Kardashian and Sephora-addicted Gen Z young women who want to be rich, famous, and in love. Yeah, I mean, I think that that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, there again, this really is, it's manosphere for girls.
Yeah. Like their male counterparts in online Christian discourse, Halili and Reitzma don't seem much interested in Christian doctrines about feeding the poor, healing the sick, or welcoming the stranger. Theirs is a post-Oprah self-help Christianity with podcast episodes about dating, mental health, addiction, and the struggles of adolescence. Rather than connecting audiences with experts on such topics, however, they present evangelical-style faith as something close to a cure-all. We found Jesus because of mental health issues, Halili explained in a 2024 episode, describing their podcast as a healing ministry that deploys the authority of Jesus as the power to heal ourselves and to heal others, in the same spirit that raised Jesus from the dead. Yeah, there's a lot that I actually want to talk about right here. So that's another thing that Jenny and I talked about in our interview is the fact that I've watched a lot of Girls Gone Bible, unfortunately, and I've never heard them talking about, like, the poor or, like, the downtrodden, like the Bible talks about. Like, they never talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
Which, to me, being someone who grew up in Christianity, that's, like, the thing about Christianity. That's, like, one of the main teachings of Jesus.
Yeah.
And the fact that they don't talk about that at all, and instead it's, like, mostly focused on, like, modesty and purity and, like, relationships and that kind of thing, it's, like, very strange for me. It's, like, almost not Christian to me.
Well, I mean, like, look at what kind of content sells online. It's like self-help stuff. Like there's a saying, it's self-help, but they just slap some
Christian,
Jesus, Christianese on top, and there you go. Like, that's really all this is.
Yeah. So their podcast really rests on both Angela and Ari's testimonies, primarily Angela's. And Angela tells this story about how she was an alcoholic and she was cured overnight, basically because of Jesus. And so they kind of present faith and Christianity in Jesus as though it is this cure-all, that if you just, like, accept Christ into your life, that, like, things are going to change for you overnight, basically. And when it comes to alcoholism, which is something that Jenny pointed out and talked about more because she's a nurse, so she has a lot of knowledge about this. But that's, like, really, really dangerous to be spreading, because if you are actually an alcoholic and you're somebody that's drinking heavily every day, stopping overnight can, like, actually kill you. Like, you should not do that. So, and something that I found out recently, and just the end of this paragraph reminded me of this. I saw this Girls Gone Bible short with Angela, and she was talking about how one of the first, like, Christians that was very decisive in her turn towards Christianity was this guy named Socrates. And he's, like, this healing pastor dude. And I looked him up, and he apparently claims that he's raised 14 people from the dead. Where's the evidence for this? Him.
Oh my God.
And I was just like, oh my God, this is the person that like got you into Christianity? That's kind of scary. Like, do they not realize that there are Christians and Christianity exists outside of this like evangelical, hyper charismatic space? Like, do they not realize that?
I mean, that kind of reminds me of, we've said before, you know, I don't know, we know someone like our parents' age or our parents, and they like think something and they say, we are like, where did you see that? And they're like, I saw it on Facebook. And we're like, you know that things can be on Facebook that like look like an article, but it's just not true, right? And they're like, wait, oh, okay, yeah. Oh, I see that now. This is kind of like that. I'm like, you know that people can get on, I'm guessing YouTube, and be like, I've raised 16 people from the dead. And you know what? God was there, and God could testify to that. You know they can just be fucking lying, right?
Yeah.
Like, they can just be lying.
It would be so easy to lie about that.
I mean, you need, in order to believe that, I'm going to need to see like 16 death certificates and then like several detailed scans of 16 different people as they were being brought back from the dead in order for me to think that might be true. And I just like hear a guy say that on a video. Come on.
The hosts of Girls Gone Bible frequently speak about staying pure, telling their followers that sex before marriage ruins lives, and that modesty is very important if women wish to avoid appearing promiscuous. So it was something of a branding problem when a video appeared on the internet earlier this year showing Halili on all fours wearing a mini dress while several other scantily clad women dance around her, giggling. I don't do this type of stuff anymore, says Halili. I have a religious podcast. That video circulated rapidly on TikTok and other social media, leading to rumors and allegations that Halili and Reitzma have behaved abusively to fans who had trusted in them as ministers. Neither woman has any formal religious education or training in Christian ministry. While they have frequently suggested that they were both less than pure in the past, narratives of redemption and salvation are central to Christian faith, after all. The details were left vague. As the online rumors escalated, Girls Gone Bible devoted its March 21st podcast to addressing the controversy.
Which I think that episode is pretty much a response to you and Jenny.
Yeah, I mean,
like that's what it is.
Yeah. So a common comment that I get from Girls Gone Bible fans is them saying that like Angela and Ari have been open about the fact that they used to struggle with stuff and like weren't the like ideal Christians. And so they're saying like nothing we're saying, like basically that they can discount everything that myself and Jenny are saying because they're like, oh, they've been honest about that. And the thing is like, yeah, they have like vaguely said or like alluded to the fact that they weren't completely right when they started the podcast. But like to an evangelical, that can mean like a whole range of things. And I think most people would assume that that probably means that they were still like struggling with lust, or they were like living with their boyfriend still, or you know, something like that.
Yeah.
Like maybe drinking alcohol occasionally.
Yeah.
That is like a whole different thing than like they were actually working as poker girls, aka escorts, at the same time as filming their podcast where they would talk about modesty and purity.
Yeah.
Like that's a whole different thing.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and also, I mean, past versus while you were working on the podcast. Those are two different things. Past, but way before the podcast is one thing, versus you were working as an escort, like you were working as a sex worker probably, and
well,
then
it's not a sex worker. It's not classified that way.
Oh, okay.
Amanda will explain further in the article.
You're working as an escort, and then you know the next day you are going to the studio and recording a podcast saying it's going to ruin your life if you sin by having sex with your boyfriend who you intend to marry even one time. I mean, like that's a different thing. It's a very different thing.
I was actually listening to this video this morning about Elon Musk and how like Elon insists that he's a really good video game player and that he's like specifically good at this one game. I can't remember what it is. But like he just like pretends that he's like this amazing gamer or whatever. And then it was kind of revealed that he's been like paying somebody to boost his character in this one game to like make it so that he ranks in the highest in the world or whatever. And I feel like that is very analogous to what's happening here because like the host of the video that I was listening to, they were saying like, you know, him not actually being a good gamer, like there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Like, there's nothing wrong with like being mediocre.
Yeah,
you know
who cares?
what I mean?
Who cares? Yeah.
The problem is that you're telling everyone that you're like this amazing gamer and you're like artificially upping your stats. That's the issue. Yeah. And I feel like this is exactly like analogous to this, where it's like the issue is not that they were working as poker girls. We don't have a problem with that. And you know, even if they started their podcast and it was all about Christianity and they were just like wanted to talk about Jesus and still working as poker girls, I don't think that there's anything that's even wrong with that, because I don't think that it's contradictory to be a poker girl and a Christian at the same time. I think that you can do that. The problem is that on their podcast, in the like second episode, they start talking about how you shouldn't be living with your boyfriend before marriage. Yeah. So it's like you cannot be telling other women to not do something that you yourself are doing. Yeah. Like that's the issue, and like I don't understand how their fans don't see that. Like I honestly don't.
I mean, honestly, I think that the most common explanation for that, the most likely thing is, people they're not making it to the part of the video where you even talk about that before they leave a comment and then leave.
Yeah, you're probably right. The episode was entitled Past in Shame, and Halili promised true, raw transparency that would add clarity to the context and timeline of the leaked video. It had been shot, she said, before Girls Gone Bible was even created. They were only in talks about creating a podcast at the time, she insisted, and her mock protest seen in the video was a joke that is just, like, ridiculous. Her behavior on camera was provocative and, like, lusty, she admitted, but she said she was not drunk, not high, not on anything when it was filmed. She did not address any of the other online accusations or claims directed at either women. And yeah, there's a lot of other, like, claims and allegations and issues with Girls Gone Bible. I mean, a lot of women have come forward and said that they feel like they were emotionally abused by Angela and Ari when they were running their podcast. Yeah. And also the allegation of them working as poker girls. They didn't address either of those things. They only addressed the video, and I think it's because that's the only one that they felt like they had any sort of defense for. Yeah. But, like, even their defense for the video doesn't even make sense, because they, like, are claiming that it was, like, before Girls Gone Bible was created, but then they also, like, go on to say that they were, like, planning for Girls Gone Bible and were filming videos for Girls Gone Bible. So it's like their entire defense is resting on this technicality that they hadn't, like, gone live with their first episode yet. But I'm like, but you had filmed videos, obviously. Yeah. So it's like, this was not before Girls Gone Bible. This is when you were working on Girls Gone Bible. Like, what are you talking about?
I just don't think their fan base are the types that are really going to think about that too deeply.
I guess. Comments below the video were largely supportive. Your past does not define who you are, wrote one fan, a core American precept if there ever was one. Indeed, Reitzma and Halili have long portrayed themselves as reformed party girls, as already mentioned. Halili has said she is a recovered alcoholic, nearly 6 years sober. Their stories about the past have never been specific, although the general outlines are clear enough. They went to nightclubs, they dated numerous men, they had sex without the benefit of matrimony. All of which sounds entirely normal and relatable, but is sufficient to provide a redemption narrative for Christian magazines like Relevant, without seeming remotely scandalous or unusual. Past and Shame appear to fit neatly into that narrative. But questions about Reitzma and Halili's past and exactly how their podcast was created and constructed have not gone away. Nicole Aldrett, who shared numerous text messages, photos, and videos to Salon to establish her former friendship with Halili, suggests that the narrative behind Girls Gone Bible is largely untrue. Aldrett is a former poker girl, the term used to describe young women, often unemployed or underemployed actresses, who work at underground poker games in Los Angeles, sometimes frequented by wealthy and influential men in Hollywood and related businesses. This is closer to the world depicted in the Oscar-winning movie Honora, which portrays the intersection of rich criminal-adjacent men and strip clubs, than to a low-stakes basement poker game among friends. Glimpses of these games occasionally surface in local LA media, largely because of violence resulting from feuds between rival game operators.
That kind of reminds me just a little bit of that episode of The Handmaid's Tale, where they, like, Offred goes to this weird, like, I mean, I'm not sure that this is exactly that, but basically goes to a Christian nationalist brothel.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of what it reminds me of a little bit.
Poker girls are officially described as waitresses and are hired along with other staff like bartenders, chefs, and parking valets to work at poker parties and private homes. They dress in sexy outfits and are expected to drink and flirt with male customers in exchange for generous tips. They are not sex workers and their jobs are entirely legal, but Aldrett said that poker girls sometimes form sugar relationships with affluent players, exchanging their companionship for financial support. And this is also something that's important because Nicole alleges that both Angela and Ari were going on kind of like escort dates with some men that they met from poker games. And like the implication there was that, like, you know, stuff was happening and like it was kind of like a sugar baby relationship. Yeah. And she says that this was going on like for months after they started their podcast.
Yeah, that, I mean, again, if you want to do that, you can do that. We don't think that is morally wrong.
If you want to do that and be a Jesus-loving Christian, like,
yeah, you can still do that.
Yeah,
just don't do that while telling women that they're going to burn in hell if they, like, look at a man with lust or something.
Exactly.
Like, come on.
Young women in LA who work poker behind the scenes generally don't talk about it, Aldrett said. It's very taboo. Game operators can find a steady supply of labor in a city famously thick with struggling actresses and models. The work is really draining, Aldrett added. You have to put up with a lot from these men. The poker girls are expected to be pretty accessories and are often pressured to drink heavily and sometimes use illegal drugs like ketamine or cocaine. She showed Salon photos and videos of poker girls doing their makeup in luxurious bedrooms of mansions or partying aboard a yacht. She had signed a non-disclosure agreement and could not share specific names and addresses, but said, "I experienced a lot of crazy things and saw a lot of crazy things." According to Aldrett, the now viral video of Halili was shot at the end of such a poker party, likely around 3 or 4 in the morning. She says she met both Reitzma and Halili when all three were working as poker girls, and that the hosts of Girls Gone Bible were still working parties as they posted early episodes.
So not just as they were filming episodes, but as they were posting them. Like, Girls Gone Bible existed on YouTube and was going out to podcast, places, while they were still doing this job. Yeah.
Which, again, would be fine if not for the fact that they were talking about modesty and purity on their podcast.
Yeah.
And I think that the video of Angela was taken on like April 12th or the 13th. And the first episode of Girls Gone Bible went live on May 10th. So there's like less than a month between those things. And, as we've talked about before, Angela is wearing the same outfit in that video of her that she's wearing in the first episode of Girls Gone Bible. So a lot of people, including myself, think that video was probably taken on the day that they filmed their first episode. Yeah. And I mean, for a lot of YouTubers, when you're planning to launch a channel, you usually start filming and working on it like a month or months prior.
Yeah.
Like, you have your first video filmed and like probably have a couple other videos filmed before you go live.
Right.
The video copy shared with Salon seems to corroborate this, since the date on the copy given to Salon indicates it was shot on the morning of April 13th, 2023, exactly a week before Reitzma and Halili filed paperwork for the LLC that produces Girls Gone Bible. The address given on the paperwork also appears in a text message from Halili to Aldrett, inviting her to a get-together. As many online observers have noted, Halili appears to be wearing the same outfit and makeup in the leaked video as she did in the first episode of Girls Gone Bible, posted on May 10th, 2023. So, yeah. I mean, they were filing paperwork for Girls Gone Bible around the time that this video was taken.
Yeah. Which
also is kind of strange to me. Like, I've talked about this on TikTok, but just the fact that they, like, filed an LLC for Girls Gone Bible before they even knew if it was going to be successful. Mm-hmm. Like, there's something weird about that.
Yeah. I mean, in that episode, they talk about how a Girls Gone Bible was not anything that they were really thinking about doing yet for real. Like, it's even kind of a joke that they even have a podcast because they weren't even really working on it. It was just not like an idea they're playing around with. But you don't go from playing around with an idea to submitting the finished paperwork, which is a lot, to basically get recognized as an LLC. Like, you don't go from, 0 to 100 in 1 week. I mean, for me, when it came to starting my channel, I started thinking about my YouTube channel in October of 2016. And like, that's when I started, like, kind of doing some of the planning stuff. I came up with the name in December of 2016, and I posted my first video at the end of March 2017. So they were deep in knowing what they were going to do by the time this video was shot.
And, I mean, just going back to the fact that her defense for the video was like, oh, it was before Girls Gone Bible. It's like, girl, you filed an LLC for Girls Gone Bible, like, a week after. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, it was at the same time, and you're, like, just writing on a technicality, basically. And also, you say in the video that you have a Christian podcast. Or a religious podcast, not even a Christian podcast, which is, like, really weird wording.
Yeah, if you grew up in the Christian world like we did, religion's not a good word.
Yeah.
You don't,
like, evangelicals do not call themselves religious, usually.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, it's a relationship, not a religion.
That, for me, that was one of the things that, like, tipped me off. Seeing that video, I was like, whoa. That's not what Christians say.
Yeah. Text messages Alderette shared with Salon seemed to confirm her story of a brief but intense friendship with Halili that began in late 2022. We just started talking about how we're both Christian, how we both believe in Jesus and our love for Jesus, Alderette said. The women bonded over their shared feelings about working in a dark industry, which they felt was necessary because they were struggling economically. So I think that this information kind of does give us a little bit of insight into what was going on with Girls Gone Bible, and I kind of suspected that this was the case. I didn't think that Angela and Ari were just, like, full on, like, scamming, like, not actually Christian. I think that they are Christian and that they believe in it somewhat. But at the same time, I do think that they saw their faith as an opportunity to make money.
Yeah.
I think those two things can be true at the same time.
Yeah.
Soon after that, she said, the two began attending church services together and also working poker parties together. Alderette provided photos of herself with Halili and screenshots of text messages in which the two women talk about Christ and poker. Sorry, that's like a funny sentence to me. In one text message from January 2023, Alderette asks, babe, did you get paid from the game on the 10th yet? Halili replies, no, babe, what the fuck? I don't know why. In a text from May 2023, after the launch of Girls Gone Bible, Alderette asks Halili, did you work last night? She was concerned about a shooting and a car fire covered in local media. Halili replies, yes, babe. So, like, there's, like, literal proof, guys. There's literal proof. That they were working as poker girls after they started Girls Gone Bible. Their friendship lasted for several months after the launch of Girls Gone Bible, but as the podcast began to take off, Alderette said Halili pulled away. Their last text exchange was in June 2023 when Alderette wrote, I missed my sister in Christ. Halili responded, I love you more, but said she was in Vegas trying to work. Nearly a year later, Alderette said, in May 2024, Halili contacted her out of nowhere. She texted, called, and left a voice message apologizing for abandoning Alderette, saying, I had to separate myself from all of this. Alderette said she believes this outreach was because the now famous video of Halili on all fours had been posted on Instagram, and Halili was trying to find out who did it. The video didn't make much of a splash at first, but resurfaced again this year, apparently reposted by a former fan who had soured on Girls Gone Bible. So, like, this is so weird to me because, I mean, Girls Gone Bible whole thing is like this big narrative arc of them being in the LA party scene to like being very pious Christians. Like that's their whole like redemption arc kind of thing. So why would Angela feel like she needs to distance herself from the poker girl stuff? Like you could have just been honest and said, yeah, we were poker girls, but we don't, you know, we were doing that when we started Girls Gone Bible, but we don't now.
Yeah.
Like why not just be honest about that?
I just think that you can only stretch that narrative so far. I mean, you can say like, okay, so do you remember when we were at our university and we were in chapel and this lady came up and spoke and talked about her like whole redemption story about how basically she was a sex worker and now she like travels around speaking about that she used to be a sex worker and now that she travels around speaking about that she used to be a sex worker, basically. That narrative sold. I mean, she said like, oh, I slept with over 1,000 men. And everyone's like, oh, wow, no. But it works because she stopped, hard cut off, stopped having sex, got married, and didn't have sex with a man again until she got married to that man. And then she started like doing all the Christian stuff after that. Like that seems to be what the story was. That worked. If the story was that she was sleeping with a bunch of men like for money, and then she got some God, and then she started touring and talking about how she didn't sleep with men anymore while she was also sleeping with men. Or at least she could have traveled around and said, like, I'm super Christian while she was still sleeping with men for money. Like, I don't think that would have worked. I don't think that people at churches would be like, well, you know, we'll give it a pass. Like you're doing your best. None of us are perfect. No, I don't think it works that way. I think that it has to be a hard cutoff, especially for this like male dominated industry that really just cares about like a woman's purity or whatever, like to reward them.
But I don't even know if that's necessarily the case because a lot of people commenting like that's kind of their argument is that sanctification isn't a linear isn't a linear process that, you know, you take 2 steps forward and 1 step backwards. It's not like you become a Christian and accept Jesus and overnight you're a completely different person. It's like a gradual process. And like I'm having a lot of people comment that. So I feel like if they would have just been honest about it from the very beginning, I think that they could have found a following. Do I think it would have been as large of a following? No, probably not.
Right.
But because like the type of Christian that they're marketing themselves to are not mainstream Christians. These are not like normal ass Christians. These are extremists.
Yeah.
And I mean, very extremist conservative Christians are not going to be cool with you having a Christian podcast while you're also working as poker girls.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that they're marketing themselves to a very specific type of Christianity and they're like covering up this whole poker girl thing, I think shows you what their like true intentions were with this. Because like, let's be honest, if they just started a normal Christian podcast, something like, you know, like a progressive Christian thing, like New Evangelicals or something like that, they would not have the following that they do because there isn't the same kind of money in that,
right?
To be honest.
Exactly.
But now it's like they've kind of backed themselves into a corner because, I mean, if they were just honest from the get-go, there would be no issue. There would be no like allegations. At least when it comes to the poker girl stuff, there wouldn't be an issue. But now that they've like continued to lie about it and not be honest about it, if they say, oh yeah, we were poker girls, then they're admitting that they lied about it at the beginning. So it's like they're kind of screwed.
Yeah, I think their whole thing was very high risk, high reward. You know, if we can get away with this and not get caught in lying, then this story is so valuable. But if we do get caught, then, well, I don't know. I don't know if this has really damaged the reputation at all. It seems like it kind of hasn't.
No,
we'll see what happens.
Still, like some of their shows are selling out. Like I don't think it's damaged their reputation with their fans. like literally at all, unfortunately, which is like shocking to me.
This is why we need more, content creators to get on this and talk about this. Like that would help.
I seriously don't understand how their fans are like totally like don't see an issue with them at all, because I'm like, it's not just like one thing.
Because they're 17 and they don't
That's
read
true.
Salon magazine.
But like the thing is like there's not just like one issue or like one weird thing with Girls Gone Bible. It's like there's like a whole like feast of like weird things going on with them that kind of like point to like, hey, they're obviously kind of doing this for money. Clearly. Aldrete says she has come forward now not to shame their past, but because of the hypocrisy of it all, which is exactly what we've been saying. After the podcast became successful, she said she and other poker girls she knew were happy for them. But when Halili and Reitzma started talking about modesty and not living with your partner before marriage or having sex with your partner before marriage, she began to see them as dishonest. It was just a cash grab, she said. They were just doing it to exploit the Christian faith and the people. Which is like, yeah, I mean, she's seeing in real time, like, hey, they're saying this on their podcast when, like, I know in their real life they're not doing that.
Yeah.
Much of the Girls Gone Bible brand, Aldrete said, is about being transparent and embracing the forgiveness of Jesus Christ. If Halili and Reitzma are sincere, she asks, why not just admit the truth about their recent past? Which is like, yeah, this is what we said in our last video about them. It's like, why, if you're all about like transformation and sanctification and like whatever, why not just like address all of the allegations and like be honest about what happened? Like, I don't understand why you're not, other than the fact that you've backed yourself into a corner now.
Yeah.
The marketing of Girls Gone Bible leans heavily on authenticity. The origin story Halili gave the Christian-themed magazine relevant for a January profile makes the decision to start the podcast to sound impulsive. We're sitting in my living room reading the Bible, she said, and spontaneously decided to hit record and started talking. Yeah, which is why you filed for an LLC a month before that, sure.
Yeah. And also, I mean, okay, their first 2 episodes weren't as good, but it takes a good bit to just even set up in your living room to record a podcast or something.
Yeah,
like,
I mean...
It's not impulsive. You have to work for like a couple of hours to get the whole thing figured out.
Yeah, like it was surprisingly good. Like even, obviously they had a big jump in their production quality a couple episodes in, but even at first their production was pretty good. Like you would have to already have a camera, which maybe they did. They would have to have some sort of lighting. Like clearly there was lighting in that first episode. They don't edit their own videos. And in, I think the second episode, they talk about having a producer. Who has a producer for your podcast you're like just sat down and spontaneously decided to record? Like what? That doesn't make any fucking sense.
I have 800,000 subscribers and I don't have a producer.
They started out with a producer.
That's crazy.
And they obviously don't edit their own stuff. Like, I mean, no, they don't edit their own
So their
stuff.
story is a very obvious lie.
It's so clear. And I said all of this on TikTok and like all of their fans are saying like, you don't have a point. I'm like, I don't understand how you guys are not seeing this. Like, is it just the fact that I'm 10 years older than you?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes, it is.
That seems implausible based on the first several episodes, which appear professionally produced with high-quality lighting and sound. It also conflicts with the paper trail, which shows that they incorporated and registered the domain girlsgonebible.com a month before the first episode was released. Like, if you have no idea if something you just decided to do spontaneously and you really aren't sure how it's going to perform or be received, you don't really know if you're going to have any growth, why are you filing for an LLC? Why are you registering girlsgonebible.com? Why are you hiring a producer and like editors and like investing a ton of money into it?
Yeah.
Like I honestly like am very, very curious where their funding is coming from. Like I suspect that there's a larger, either there's some wealthy individual or a larger right-wing media company that's behind them. Like I don't know this for sure, but it's like when you started your YouTube channel, you started filming with your phone.
Yeah.
Like, and when you haven't done this kind of stuff before, you don't know that there's like sound mixing that you have to do and that You have to noise reduce. Like, usually people use your camera audio instead of having mics. Like, there's all this stuff that you don't know. And clearly they started out with having, like, a huge leg up. Like, they almost knew that they were going to make it into this big media empire.
Yeah.
And yet they're claiming in a Christian magazine that it's something that they just kind of, like, did on a whim.
They're industry plants.
Yeah, they really, like, I honestly think that they are.
Yeah.
Which would not be unusual because the right wing loves to do industry plants. I mean, what's her name?
Ally B. Stuckey.
Ally B. Stuckey, and then there's like another one. I can't remember right now.
Are you thinking of Brett Cooper, the other industry plant? Yeah,
that's who I'm thinking of. This authenticity branding is important to the success of the Girls Gone Bible brand, given their Christian right's dim view of female ambition. Halili and Reitzma don't wear aprons or pose with backyard chickens, but their content still belongs to the same social media universe as tradwife content, and similarly themed propaganda for womanly submission. Both women are single, but present themselves much like before images of the tradwife, a glamorous young woman who will someday be snatched up by a godly provider and find fulfillment as a compliant housewife. So I actually think them both being single is not exactly true. I'm pretty sure Angela has a boyfriend now, but it's like kind of a recent thing. So I have such desire, like a true yearning to be led spiritually. I just want to sit and look up to, wait, what? I just want to sit and look up at a man talking to me about theology. Okay. Still, that's like weird. Like, you just want to sit while your like husband's just like talking at you. Like, what? I believe submission is like, I like that she kept in her legs. I believe submission is like the highest form of beauty for a woman, Reitzma said in a video defending the fundamentalist teaching of male headship over women. Rather than asking for love or respect from a man, she said, a woman should pray to God and let her husband come to me in his way. She assured viewers, there's no way it can fail because you're not trying to go head to head with each other. There's God in the middle who works it all out for you guys.
Yeah, that's why, like, you know, feminism started with Christianity. Like, Christian women have always been respected and given equal positions of power and everything in leadership as men in Christianity. Always. There's not even anything in the Bible that directly says they're not allowed to have that.
Lovings, the ex-evangelical memoirist, described the GGB aesthetic and effect as a sexy baby voice.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah. Hi, femme, tapping into the current vibe of being positive. It doesn't come across as too political, she added, but said that after watching episodes of Girls Gone Bible, her YouTube ads were filled with tradwife content.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, they might not necessarily meet the aesthetic of tradwifery. They're not in their kitchens cooking, you know, sourdough bread from scratch or something. But, I mean, a lot of the messaging and things that they talk about on their podcast are like identical to tradwife stuff.
Yeah. They're like, their role is like telling the city girls and the career girls to sit down and shut up rather than telling women who are already with a man, keep sitting down and keep shutting up.
Exactly. I think they said earlier it's like pre-tradwife stuff. So it's before you become the wife.
It's the tradwife pipeline.
Yeah. There's a significant difference between GGB and tradwife content, however. The latter is partly crafted to appeal to men, with its heavily sexualized fantasies of a woman devoted to domestic servitude. Some of it, like the famous Ballerina Farm, also targets married adult women, offering an idyllic fantasy of farm life far removed from the stressors of most women's daily existence. GGB is clearly pitched at young single women, as evidenced by the sizzle reels advertising their live shows, which almost exclusively showcase female fans in their teens and early 20s. Levings identified the target demographic as young people who aren't interested in their parents' religion, adding that the ads announce, "This isn't your mama's purity culture." Jennifer Neiman, the former GGB fan quoted above, has since become something of an anti-GGB influencer in her own right. She claims responsibility for recirculating the video of Halili on all fours and has collected stories from other former fans and friends who say that they've been harmed by the hosts. Many such allegations can be found on social media, but Salon is not reporting claims that could not be directly sourced. She first encountered a Girls Gone Bible at a low point in my life and after a really bad breakup, Neiman told Salon. Okay, so I understand why Amanda couldn't talk about the allegations from the women here because she didn't source it, but I know that those allegations are true. I've seen the messages myself.
Yeah.
So I just want to recap here that Angela and Ari have apparently lied to a woman's probation officer to get her in trouble because they didn't like the fact that she kind of called Angela out for not being sober, even though she claimed that she was sober.
There was another fan that got connected to this pastor that they had on their podcast. So there's like this ex-Muslim, now turned Christian preacher, pastor guy that GGB had on their podcast. And a fan got like linked up with him, like going to his church kind of thing. And what ends up happening is she is like baptized by this guy at his house with no one else around. And is asked some...
Well, there was one other woman there.
Oh, there's one other woman there. And during the baptism, which if you've ever been like Christian baptized, which we've seen it a million times, they never ask you detailed questions about your sexual history. And that's what this girl alleges he was asking about.
Very, very, very specific questions. Not just like, have you had premarital sex? He was asking questions about specific sex acts.
Yeah. And,
which is like super, you don't do that at a baptism. Like that's not something you do at a baptism.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when this woman told GGB like, hey, this is really weird that this happened. This is not good. I think you should take that episode down because this guy is super shady. They blocked her.
Yeah. And never took that episode down.
Yeah, of course.
And then there was also another fan who was kind of getting close to them. And I think she was brought backstage during a live show. And she opened up to both of them about how her mom had died a year prior. And apparently she was told by Angela, I think it was Angela, told her that she's idolizing her mom's death. Because I guess she was still grieving her mom. Which I'm like, it was her mom.
That's so disgusting.
She died a year ago. Like, that's what? Of course she's still grieving. That's not something you ever stop grieving. But, like, especially after a year. And then I guess she doesn't really care about, like, evangelical modesty standards. And so Angela was chastising her for not dressing modestly. So it's like, these are, like, really insane, like, crazy allegations.
They don't need to be in a position of leadership when they obviously give no shits about the people they're working with. They just care about the money.
Yeah. Her doubts began, she said, after attending a live Girls Gone Bible event in Tampa, Florida. Neiman grew up in the mainline Presbyterian church and still belongs to a congregation that flies the pride flag. Yeah, Jenny is definitely, I don't know if she would call herself this, but I've called her a progressive Christian. That's kind of how I see her. She's very supportive of LGBT people, and she is a Christian that I'm very willing to ally with because in every way except for like faith, we pretty much agree. So she wasn't familiar with the charismatic evangelical world behind the Girls Gone Bible version of Christianity and described what she saw in Tampa as some crazy stuff, such as people crying aloud or praising Jesus in theatrical fashion. But it was after the GGB hosts openly embraced Trump, Neiman said, that she turned against them. If you have a good moral standing, you just do not support someone like Donald Trump.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, that's so true. And yeah, if you go onto Girls Gone Bible's like Instagram, like all of their pictures from their live shows are these young women just like literally like bawling their eyes out.
Yeah. And
like Angela and Ari are like from the stage like pushing their heads down and like praying over them. It's like this really like weird over dramatic scene.
Yeah, it's a show.
It's a show, yeah. Neiman's existing political convictions drove her away from Girls Gone Bible, but she believes the podcast power could lead other young women who haven't thought these issues through as deeply down a different path. The rhetoric they're using is super harmful, Neiman said, especially their message to be brainless and follow men around.
Yep.
That's literally something that they said when they went on George Janko's podcast. They like literally said that they want to find a man where they can just turn their brain off and the man just leads them around. Like they literally said that like pretty much verbatim.
That's horrible.
She hopes to encourage other women to rely on themselves and never on a man. The GGB message is disguised as female empowerment, she said, but it decreases the value of a woman at the end of the day because I think we're so much more than a wife. Yeah, so true.
Yeah, like you can be a wife and be valuable and be like you can
like a personality beyond that.
Yeah, and you can get value and self-esteem from being in that role. But if being in that role means that you sit down, shut up, and don't listen to anybody but your husband, or you don't, like think for yourself, it's not going to be healthy. It's going to be horrible for you. Like you can appreciate yourself, love yourself, be yourself, and also be a wife. That's what I think as a man. And if a man is telling you need to be any less than that, fuck that guy.
Yeah,
like,
for real.
For real. He does not deserve to be with someone.
Angela and Ariel have already hurt many women as they've built their careers, said Lee, the former evangelical and podcast host. I worry that many more will be hurt if their stories aren't brought to light. Many previous televangelists, she noted, have seen their empires crumble under the weight of allegations of hypocrisy, abuse, and especially sexual scandal. The same fate, she suspects, could befall the Girls Gone Bible enterprise. Salon reached out to Halili and Reitzma both individually and through the talent agency that represents them with questions regarding the issues raised by this reporting. They have not responded. Because, like, if you have nothing to hide, if you want to own up to your past mistakes and, like, be transparent, why are you not, like, offering some sort of comment to Salon? Like, I wonder why that is.
I think that right now what Girls Gone Bible is going to try to do is ignore this and hope this goes away. And I mean,
that is already what they're doing.
Yeah.
They did that one, like, addressing the controversy video, which they only addressed the video of Angela, and that's it. And now they've just gone back to, like, business as usual, and they're just posting normal content now.
Which, I mean, I would say, if you're watching this far into the video and you don't want this to go away, you do want them to be held accountable, like, talk about this. You can share this video if you want, but you don't have to share this video. Share the article, talk about this on your social media, make your own videos about it, ask content creators that you like to also talk about this, and hopefully maybe these women will be held accountable for the harm that they've caused the people who are, like, under their care that trusted them.
Thank you all for watching, and a huge thank you to my patrons who help make these videos possible. If you like this video, please be sure to subscribe and ring the bell. If you'd like to follow me on social media, my Instagram is Taylor_the_antibot. And if you'd like to support this channel financially, a link to my Patreon will be down in the description, and I'll see you on the next one. Say bye!